This is on page 122. It's an introduction of style lines. So the classic princess line is in anytime you divide the front bodice or back bodice, or you wouldn't just do the one and not the other. It generally goes hand in hand because in design, it's better to do whatever you do in the front, do in the back, design-wise. So the classic one goes into the shoulder, the middle of the shoulder. They have a bodice that has as you see, a dart here on the side seam and in the waist. And they basically draw a line straight into the center of the shoulder seam and measure up from the bust point, which is the vanishing point, 2 inches up, 2 inches down. Anytime you are dealing with a princess line, you always want to have at least 3 notches. They may only do 2 notches in here, but I will tell you, having done these many times, 3 notches is going to be better for you. Because there is, in some cases, ease in the bust. As you see that there will be ease when I go over to the next page. There's ease in this bust, and this is going to help you place the fabric together so that you know that 2 inches below the bust point, which will no longer be there once you've cut it, that will be notched. Bust point always notch above and below. In this area, if you have puckering, people's eyes are going to go right there. So people will be staring right here, and this is not where you want people to look. So you don't want puckering in this area on the body. Now this is where I get into. If you have a small bust, a princess line is going to make your bust look larger, so it's an optical illusion also. If you have a large bust, a princess line is going to make your large bust look larger. So you need to pick and choose, depending on your customer, what it is that you want to do. Not everybody looks good in a princess line, I will just say that. So this is just the classic one. So in this case, in this scenario, they divide this into 2 pieces and they close that dart. And that opens up the dart in the seam that you're sewing. So there's the importance of having a notch there so that you know where it goes. And then it gets blended as if it doesn't exist. And if you need additional ease, if you need more ease in this area, because you don't want puckering, you can slice it open and add more. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. On the next page, they talk about the classic armhole one. So depending on and you would have seen this, think Jane Austen, think Mr. Darcy. His coats had princess lines on them. It was it came from men's suiting originally. And then it was developed a little later, maybe 1830s, 1840s, into women's wear. It does make your eye, because it is a continuation in most cases. In this case, your eye travels down the seam line. So if you want to look taller than you actually are, princess lines are good on you. If you want to look thinner than you are, then you would put a light color in the center and you would make your princess lines darker, because it brings the eye in. So there's illusions that you can do. So what you want to do is you want to copy off your bodice. I did find my 2 dart. If you didn't have the 2 dart, then you would just draw a line from the bust point or the vanishing point to the center of the shoulder. So you can't get rid of, if you want the same fit, you can't get rid of darts. But darts can be made into easing, gathering, or you can make them into seams, and this is making it into seams. So essentially what you're going to do is you will connect this all. So I'm going to connect this to the original. So this was the dropped, this is the dart with it being dropped. I guess it would be easier. I only copied that. I did not copy that. So I'm going to go directly to the source, which is right here. And then from here to there. And then the same thing here, from here. So I'm just filling in what I didn't fill in originally. And then from here to here. So can you see it already? I mean, it was there all along. You just had to believe. So in this case, what I'm going to do is this will become a notch. And I'm going to measure 2 inches up each dart leg, and 2 inches down each dart leg. This will help us when you go to sew it. In the case of the bust, you can smooth this out. If you sew this exactly as it is, it's gonna look like that. This is a side profile. There's the armhole. You're gonna have a point because that's what you're essentially doing. So we're gonna smooth that out so that it smooths around the bust. So take your French curve and then just make this, you can trim off some, but I'm making this a nice, gentle, smooth curve. So I'm eliminating that little point. The grain line on here is along the center front. And because we're gonna be separating this, I'm gonna establish the grain line on the next piece too. So the grain line is a relationship on this piece where it was at the front. So it's generally in the center of the piece. If you want to measure the center, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, that's not right. So that's 4 1/4 on mine. So that's 2 1/8. So I'm just measuring from the grain line the same distance. So the distance from here to there is the same as from there to there. If you have a large enough ruler. So there's the grain line on this piece. Because when I separate it, you won't have that option. Well, you have to just work backwards. So the front panel, which is the front panel is this panel, and this is now the front princess panel. That's a relatively straight line. So you're taking a straight line and you're placing it on a curve. The dart is now gone. No dart. What size was it? 6. And now the princess panel gets cut out. All of this work that we do is without any seam allowance. Seam allowance, this then gets copied off again and seam allowance is added, which then will make it a pattern. This can be a basic sloper also, so you don't have to go through all of these. I'm checking to see if my notches are still left before I cut it all off. And here's our front princess panel. So here we have a notch. Because this is not this may not be literally 2 inches anymore because I've trimmed some down. But what you always want to do is walk the pattern, and what that means is starting at a point, and you can start at the shoulder, you're going to walk the pattern up. Do you see how the notches don't match? One is higher than the other. So I'm matching up the waistline, and I'm going to mark this here, knowing that those match. There might be ease in here, so those two may not match, and that's fine. And then I will, because of what it is, I will walk that down to make sure that that matches at that point. But because of these angles and because of the curvature, they shifted a little. So I'm just going to walk the pattern. And essentially, if this didn't have any ease built in, and it doesn't have much, do you see the difference? It's like not even 1/4 of an inch. I would make sure that this line is the same as that line. But we know that there's ease in this bust area. And in some cases, Dior would have had this, but made that a dart altogether. And that's called a Dior dart, because he was known for putting darts in princess lines. It's not something commonly seen. But if you kept that's so minuscule. When you close that dart, it opens so little of the dart in the princess panel that you don't use it. To ease that in would be stupidity. It's so little. It's like probably that much. Does anybody have any questions on this?
So it's gonna be 3 pieces total then, right?
It's 4.
4.
Where did you get 3 from?
I think I just counted wrong. I meant, oh, never mind, yeah, because it's 2 halves of the front and then, yeah, never mind. That's how I was visualizing the shape.
Now, in production, they wouldn't necessarily have a seam running down the center, so this would be transferred onto a folded piece of paper and it